Hi, my name is Zulu Uwalo and I'm the founder of Kurerie, and welcome to season 2 of the Kurerie podcast. If you are new here, the Kurerie podcast follows the stories of young impact creators and change makers and social disruptors and youth activists that are creating impact and change in their communities and all over the world. In our first episode of season 2, we spoke with Heritage Sanmi-Lawal, who's the founder of Her Dream Initiative, which is an organization that's concerned with women's rights and girl-child empowerment. Heritage has worked with and volunteered with a number of organizations, including Amnesty International, Malala Fund, and Thrive CIC Future. She is very passionate about educating people on key policies affecting girls and women. And she's also an advocate for the protection of the environment, as well as an ambassador for the EU-UN Spotlight Initiative on prevention of campus sexual violence. This was such an interesting conversation to have with Heritage, and I'm super excited for you to listen in. And a quick note, this episode was recorded in 2022. So if you happen to hear some references to dates and months, please keep that in mind. And I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Heritage Sanmi-Lawal, the founder of Her Dream Initiative, and you're listening to Kurerie podcast.
So hi Heritage, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm very excited to speak to you, to learn more about your work with Her Dream Initiative and just what all the other things you've been working on, how you've been creating impact in your society. But of course, we'd start off with a very common question that we ask in every podcast episode we have, and it's just that you tell us a bit about yourself, your journey, what drives you, and yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, Zulu, for having me. To be honest, I feel like this is going to be the most candid conversation I've had in a while concerning social impact and just generally the organization. So my name is Heritage Sanmi-Lawal. I am a Nigerian and I recently graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University with a degree in law. Yes, and I think the whole strike COVID-19 pandemic just made me realize that I actually had a passion for women rights and advocacy and social justice, the whole mix really. I just really felt I could do something about it. And so apart from volunteering with various women rights organizations in between those years, I decided to start an organization solely for that purpose. And that was how Her Dream Initiative started last year, 2021. Which other random facts? Okay, yes, I love K-dramas. So when I'm not working, researching, writing, I am probably watching a Korean movie.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
yeah. And traveling too. I really do love traveling. I was just telling my siblings yesterday that I really want to, see other parts of the world, just spending time doing that. So yes, that's all about me.
Well, thank you for telling us a bit about yourself, about your journey, and about what led you to start Her Dream Initiative. Now we know why you started it. You said that you gained a lot of experience while volunteering. And I think that volunteering is so important because it definitely gives you an idea of how organizations work on every level. That's if you really like use your volunteering experience well, you can learn so much and you can definitely learn things that you apply to whatever project you're doing and even to life generally. Like I know personally, volunteering with organizations like Global Change Makers definitely helped me like understand what goes into running a non-profit sort of, or well, not necessarily running a non-profit, but definitely about keeping your network engaged, keeping volunteers engaged. So it's good to know that that's one of the driving forces behind Her Dream Initiative. So now, could you just tell us a bit more about Her Dream Initiative? What is the goal of HDI? I hope it's okay that we're calling it HDI, by the way. But what is the goal of HDI? Why was it important for you to start it? What was the reason for you starting it beyond your volunteer work?
So I would say we had Dream Initiative. It was sort of um a transition in a way, because before then people already knew me as someone who, was involved in a lot of advocacy, and at some point I actually switched to more of the humanitarian side. And I think that's at the end of the day, her Dream Initiative, I feel that's what we should represent. That's where we are heading. We want to go into where this discriminatory acts are actually being done. We want to see, hear the experiences of these women, find out how to help them. And it's so important that we do not leave a sector of people behind. And I think that's something I noticed, feminism, women rights. We tend to um, spotlight political participation, which is good. We tend to spotlight women in leadership, women as CEOs, executives, which is good. But there's also a category of people, and I think that's why we came up with the name Her Dream. There's a category of people who don't have the ability to dream. They don't have the ability to say, "Oh, I want to be a CEO," because at the age of 9, they're in, you know, a random old man's house, and
Mm-hmm.
becoming his wife. So there are actually people like that. There are realities where they can't even dream, of becoming these things. And I think that is why I started a Dream Initiative, to kind of close that gap, to make sure that we're leaving no one behind, literally. So yes, that's
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear. And I was actually going to ask you where the name Her Dream Initiative came from. So it's nice to hear like where the name stems from. It wasn't just some random name. There's a meaning behind it, and I totally agree. Especially I haven't worked in every like feminist organization, but from a bit of what I see, many non-profits or impact projects that are focused on women really try to look at women in leadership, women in political positions, which is important, but there tends to be like a sector of people that are sort of forgotten. So
yeah.
I think I really like that, and it reminds me of this thing. I attended an event, I think about 2 months ago. It was a movie screening of a movie called The Other Women, which looked at women with disabilities and how they are sort of forgotten. Most NGOs might not really give them as much um, attention as they would give other women in society. I think
True.
it's really great like what her dream initiative is doing, looking at other women, finding out what they want to achieve and helping them like achieve that. But speaking of helping women achieve their dreams, what what does her dream initiative do specifically? Like, are there programs that are done? Um, because I know that I'm connected with you on LinkedIn, so I see a lot of the work that you do. And recently I know that you went to a school and you spoke to them, to the young girls in those schools. But beyond that, what are the sort of programs and initiatives that a Dream Initiative carries out?
Okay, yes. We carry out outreaches because that is a fundamental part of the organization, to understand, to connect with women and girls better, to know, how we could help. The school we went to last time, it was a revelation for me, seeing girls talk about rape, ask questions that are quite concerning. It just made me realize um how we need to prioritize listening to these girls, listening to women. So
Mhm.
we carry out outreaches. We also carry out research projects in collaboration with various organizations. I think collaboration and partnership is something I really need to work on. But apart from that, we take out research projects. Yes, we write articles on female genital mutilation. I think in conjunction with um a patron organization. So they kind of like give us research topics to explore,
Okay.
and we carry them. Yeah. So that's another part of the work. Another part of the work that like I mentioned before, the humanitarian part of it, distributing relief items and but that's based on funding. And as we know, funding is a big deal these days. So that's
Yeah.
also a major part of the organization. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I the first episode of the podcast was with Titi Lokwe Adedokum, which I believe you know. She's also been on your podcast as well.
Yeah.
By the way, for anyone listening, please check out Heritage podcast. We'll speak more about it though. But yeah. So one of the things that Titi and I spoke about was the fact that many feminist organizations are underfunded. And
Hmm.
it's like even you have said that many of the things that you want to carry out need funding, need money, need resources. Well, can you tell us why it is so important to support the work that HDI is doing? Not just HDI, but that like other organizations that are focused on tackling discriminatory and derogatory practices against women. Why it's so important to support them and things like that.
Hmm. Um, yes, I listened to the episode where Titi Lope said 95% of feminist organizations are
Yes.
underfunded. And that was it. I wasn't shocked, to be honest. In fact, my shock was, where is the 5%? Like, I was really interested in knowing
You
the
wanted to know.
organization because I really think that feminist organizations, I think it comes with, the attitude we have towards feminism in Nigeria generally. And so
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to convince another person that this is what your money would be used for. So sometimes I see organizations, struggle to explain, but at the end of the day, this money is to help another person. And in most cases, it's literally rebuilding a person's life.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this Auntie Landa. She has a foundation in Lagos where she provides shelter for domestic violence. Okay, let me just say this. Yeah. Domestic violence. So we are releasing a directory sometime this month, December, and it is a list of all domestic violence service providers in Nigeria. So we want to have it in a single document and distribute to as many people as possible. So when they need help, they can, just look up the directory, look at a place closest to them and get help. So
Oh
um
wow, that's great.
yeah, it's it's been a long project, and I think because of funding it was quite hard to do everything in time.
Mm-hmm.
So when I found Auntie Landa's foundation in Lagos, I was really surprised because most of these domestic violence cases we see on social media, she actually is the person who handles them. And sometimes I see that she has to resort to literally going into people's DMs and saying, this woman just her husband was beating her, she just left the house. So literally this woman needs to start her life all over again. I'm talking about housing, food,
Hmm.
you know, what else? Anything you could think of for survival, clothes, because some of them literally run out of the house, with
Yeah.
nothing in their name, not even their phones, not their ATM cards. So they're literally just out there and in the mercy of anyone who decides to, be generous enough.
Yeah.
So I think the problem with funding is having to, and that's why it's so, I respect your podcast so much. I respect Titi Lopez Sisterly HQ so much because it's so important to hear how responders, tackle these issues. You know
Yeah.
that you understand that a lot of money actually comes into these things. And that is
Mm-hmm.
the truth. Money comes into these things. It's not like anyone is trying to gain money for their own personal benefit. As a matter of
Yeah.
fact, most times we spend out of our pockets. I recently had a case with someone and I literally had to empty my account for her because at that point she needed it urgently and it wasn't a matter of trying to reach out to people, which would have been too late. So we have a lot of cases like that, and we just need to listen more to survivors. We also need to listen to these service responders. We need to hear their stories on how they were able to help a woman to become independent
Yeah.
from being abused. So yes, I think that's it with funding.
Yeah. There are like so many things to pick from that. The fact that a lot of the work that you do and these other organizations do is like it relies on like funding and how much funding you get. But I think it's commendable. I have to commend you that you're still impacting people even without this funding. Like you're finding a way, and hopefully things get better where people can understand that it's important for organizations like yours to be funded. But till then, we'll do what we can. We'll spread the word. And of course, Kurerie
Yeah.
is always here to share anything that we can, any work that HDI is
Hmm.
doing. Yeah. Apart from funding, what do you think is one of your biggest like setbacks concerning HDI?
Hmm. This question, I could write a book. um, okay, I think what came to me the first setback that came to me, you asking this question, is the slow realization that my personal growth actually directly impacted the growth of the organization. I
Mm.
struggled with it a lot because it didn't occur to me, the legal term when you say corporate entity, separate entity is
Yeah,
different from, the so I think I kind of took that personal because I just wanted to have this division that this is her dream initiative, this is heritage Sanmi-Lawal. Don't mix the
yeah.
two up,
But
and
it's hard
slowly
though.
I
It's
came to,
hard.
yeah, it's I don't know the word to use, but I realized, as there's something that DDK always says, Debola Dejukurumi. She would say that social impact cannot be achieved without personal growth. And I think this is so
Mm,
true. The moment I found myself struggling with doubt, fear, you know, imposter syndrome, that's when her dream initiative was literally hanging by the threads. But when I decided to, face, be good emotionally, be good mentally, I discovered that her dream initiative was also growing and expanding.
mm,
So I think now I have this balance. Now I can easily delegate. Now I can, slowly um slowly not allow my personal feelings to affect the growth of the organization. And I think that would be the major thing, to be honest. Even with funding, sometimes me as a person, I'm a type of person, before starting her dream initiative, I'm not the type of person that will come to your DM and say, oh, I
oh my
need,
gosh,
or
yeah.
I don't know saying, but like I wouldn't be the sort of person to
Mm-hmm.
say, oh,
I
so
get it.
I want to get this and I need this money. I was not the type. But starting her dream initiative, you actually have to open your mouth to ask for things. You have to ask for help. And this was so hard for me. But at the end of the day, I adjusted. I learned, I spoke with mentors, I had, a lot of support from family and friends. So
Mm-hmm.
this just made me more confident. Now, even if I'm asking you for money and you say no, I won't take it personally, like it's
Yeah.
an insult to me or something. So yes, I think that's all.
Yeah, I think like even like when I started career or even before then, actually, I was a part of like Global Makers mentorship program. And one of the things that my mentor and I worked on, there are like different parts of the program though. And one of them is funding, how to get funds for your social impact project. And I remember him telling me like one of the stories of how he got funding. Shout out to Anthony if he's listening. That was my mentor. And I remember he was telling me the story and he told me that, okay, when you are also searching for funding, and I just laughed because I was like, I don't think that I could ever do any organization or, do you understand, or start anything where I'll need to go and ask people for money, because I don't think I have the confidence to go and ask people for money. But like the fact that you overcame that fear that you had and you grew and you're able to like go go to people, speak to them about your organization and why they should donate to you, and you're fine with them even saying no. I think that's like kudos to you. It's something I'm still learning and I'm still working on, and hopefully I could get some tips from you on how I can overcome that. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think you do just fine. I'm telling you. I think
yeah.
once you do it like twice, you kind of get over the
The initial
feeling.
fear.
But,
Okay.
yeah, because you are doing this for something good. You're doing this
Mm-hmm.
for something bigger than yourself. So I think that kind of helps you.
Yeah, yeah. So to whoever is listening and whoever is worried about asking for funding for your social impact project, you heard it from Heritage. After the first one or two times, be a breeze. So hopefully you take that like first step and just ask. And if they say no, like a no is not the end of the world. They won't kill you. So yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
And there'll always be yeses. So yeah.
True, true, true.
Yeah.
From
So
the people you're not even expecting. I need to add that.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And oh, another thing that you mentioned, Steph, was about speaking out and saying, okay, like asking, even if it's not monetary wise, like asking for help. When I
Yeah.
started Kurerie, I was, I was, I still am, to be honest, but I'm working on it. I'm trying to be better, and soon enough, we're calling out for volunteers. So hopefully, anyone that's interested in joining the team can join us. But at the beginning, in like September, I was the graphic designer. I was the editor. I still am the editor and graphic designer, but I think I'm taking things a bit easier now. I was the writer. I I interviewed all the guests, write all the write all the questions out, and it was so stressful and draining. And it was at a time when I was in between work, so I had all the time in the world. So I would stay on Kurerie for like 7 to 8 hours straight, just designing stuff and posting, and I have like I have a team like okay, we're a relatively small team. Right now we're
Mm,
five, but at some point it was only two of us. But then I
mm,
just didn't like asking for help. I was just like, well, this person is busy, because I felt like, okay, I created this idea. I don't want to stress other people. But my my friend Varsha, who's operations lead, would always text me and be like, okay, what do you need help with? Like, could you tell me what you want me to do? And I'm here to help and everything. And it's something that I'm definitely trying to grow out of. But it's a learning, it takes time, and it's a journey of learning. But yeah, okay. So from your biggest step back now to your biggest success, like it seems like HDI is doing a lot of things. You said you do a lot of research, you're working on a database, um, and you also do outreaches, which I think is incredible. But what would you say has been your biggest success so far?
mm. Strangely enough, it would be the team of people I have. I think I don't know if that qualifies for it, but
Oh, yeah.
the volunteers, the people in the organization, I think that's the biggest because you can't predict who comes to your organization as a volunteer or as a member of the team. You
Mm-hmm.
can't you can't tell what they will do, you can't tell what they won't do. And I'm not a person, okay, yes. So I'm introverted. So
Mm-hmm.
before her dream initiative,
Same.
I didn't know so many people. So I was like, okay, call for volunteers on my WhatsApp. And I will literally, I was just thinking if I call for volunteers on my WhatsApp right now, I won't get anyone to to actually volunteer because I could already see I went through my contact list. I could already tell the number of people who would be interested, and
Yeah.
at the same time they might not still just want to commit, they might not want to do anything, they just want to be in the group.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened along the way was I um decided to share with a friend, And I don't know, for some funny reason, she was like, I've been waiting for you to do this, like literally been watching you when you were going to start this. And before you know it, because she is the extroverted person, she
Mm-hmm.
reached out to volunteers and the number started doubling. And now we have like a formidable team. We're still growing, obviously, still learning a lot of lessons. We still have days where everyone is silent and I'm like, are you guys not interested in this anymore? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. But at the same time, I think it's amazing that we're able to do that. That's the success I would really count, having those people on my team.
Yeah, it's so hard to find people who I don't think you can ever find people that will be as passionate about your social impact project as you are. Maybe. I mean, when I asked on my like WhatsApp for people who will be interested in volunteering, I didn't really get any replies. And it almost deterred me, but it didn't. I reached out to
Mm.
people personally, and to be honest, the three people, three of the people that are on the team now were like not from me reaching out personally. Somebody like filled our volunteer form on our website. Somebody reached out to me. Like another
Wow.
person was from a friend that sent a message. So it wasn't like I was going to like each person. And it's so funny now that I think about it because at that time, excuse me, at that time when I sent the message, I just felt like, oh, this is a horrible idea. No one is interested in it. Like, if no
Mm,
one even wants to volunteer, like, who's even going to check out our
mm,
website? And like to see now that the people on the team, they said like they were the ones who wanted to join. Like I didn't go and ask them personally. I think that's great, and I'm very proud of the team. Shout out to the Kurerie team. But yeah, I think
yeah,
it's
guys. You guys.
but like as you said, like it's so important to not let this like deter you. Finding people who would align with you and align with your organization's values. And I know for a lot of people who'll be starting out with their projects right now, it might just seem like they're doing it all by themselves, but you also have to speak out. Like go on your LinkedIn, as Titi Lope says,
Yeah.
exist loudly, share what you're
Mm,
doing, and you will definitely find
mm,
people who want to
yeah.
work with you, who are interested in what you do, and who want to make impact like you do. So yeah, thank you for that for answering that question, Heritage. Okay, so next question. Now let's take another step back. We've spoken about what you think one of your biggest lessons was, your biggest successes. But of course, every organization evolves and grows, especially as you learn more. So as her Dream Initiative continues to grow and evolve and adapt, how do you think the initiative has changed from the first idea you had for it to now?
Oh yes. Um has it changed? I think it's more of um what's the word now? Kind of narrowing it down
Mm,
because when you have a goal, sometimes you just feel, oh, I'm a superwoman, I can
yeah.
bring the change. And then you start finding out that okay, you have to do this gradually.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to adjust to, you know, doing things in our capacity within a realistic range. So
Mm-hmm.
um we're not as because yeah, our dream initiative, we intend to go global. We want to obviously touch other parts. I feel sometimes when you're in Nigeria for too long, you just feel all the terrible things are happening in one place. But there are other countries that equally face a lot of discriminatory practices. I think recently the spotlight has been on South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
For a long time, the spotlight has been on India.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I think recently I was reading a report on child marriage, and child marriage, Nigeria is not even, the top five. We have
Mm-hmm.
Uganda, we have other countries that come before Nigeria. So I definitely feel we would have to, step in, collaborate with organizations in other parts of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, we have learned to take things gradually.
Mm-hmm.
and embrace collaboration. There's so much, and I have to say this for any social impact person, there's so much collaboration and partnership can do.
Yeah.
It's not even about the money sometimes. Sometimes it's just something as simple as organizing an Instagram live
Mm-hmm.
or having a Twitter space discussion or something like that. So it's it's easy for you to have this visibility in other parts of the world when you are
Yeah.
actively collaborating with people in those countries. So I think that was one thing I didn't expect our Dream Initiative to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of, will I say, proud. I kind of, oh, I can handle this and all, but we eventually moved, we switched to partnership, collaboration, and I think that worked for us.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Collaboration is so important, and like that is, gosh, I feel like it's so underrated. Like working with other organizations, seeing how you can collaborate, because where you start or where you end is where another organization could start. So it's so important to partner with other young people that are doing work, and even like with every person that I've spoken to on the podcast, they've definitely spoken about how it has definitely helped them with their work. And, you know, again with Kurerie, I'm sorry I keep coming back to Kurerie, but like Kurerie is what I am right now. So we keep going back here, but like it's like something I can easily pick examples of so that I can relate it to what you're saying. And with Kurerie, the core of it is focused on like SDG 17, but also looking at rather how youth are partners in the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. So sometimes in the past, when people would ask like, "Oh, what's your idea? What's SDG does your idea cover?" And I was never really able to pick one because we've spoken
Mm,
to we've spoken to people like young people like you who are focused on SDG 5, spoken to people
mm,
young people who are focused on climate change, spoken to young people who are not even just focused on SDG 5 but on a particular target of SDG 5, on like political participation of women, on creating more
yeah,
opportunities for women. So it's not just like a blanket, it's not just like a specific SDG that we are focused on. But then as I read more and like just researched and explored more, I came to understand that what we look at is SDG 17, and SDG 17 is on partnership for the goals. But now we are now focused on amplifying the voices of youth and showing that youth are more than beneficiaries, but they are stakeholders and they are collaborators and they are partners in the achievement of the goals. So
yeah,
again, it
yeah.
goes yes, exactly. So it goes back to the point of what you said about how collaboration is so important and it's so underrated. And I think even if like I've sent messages to so many people on LinkedIn. Some people have read them because, as you know, LinkedIn sometimes will rat you out and tell you when somebody has checked your profile. So
Yeah.
I said like I sent messages to people and they would check my profile, but they wouldn't send a reply. And
Hmm.
it can be a bit hard sometimes because you're now like, so let me not send any message again. But there will be people that will reply. You replied my message. Like all the people that I've had on podcasts have replied my message. So it doesn't matter
Hmm.
if you get a no, as you said earlier. Like just keep going, keep trying to collaborate, keep trying to partner with people, and your reach
Yeah.
will definitely increase. You will learn so much more, and you'll be able to give so much more as well and impact more people. So yeah, I think that's so important. Thank you very much for answering that question, Heritage. Okay, now we took a step back to the past, but now let's talk about the future of her dream initiative. So, what are the future plans? You've told us a bit about how you want to collaborate more, how you're working on a what's it called? I've forgotten. I've forgotten a directory. Yes, how you're working on a
Yeah.
directory. How you want to go beyond Nigeria. But are there any other plans in the works, or are there any other things that you would like her dream initiative to achieve?
Hmm. Yes, I think. For next year, I've just had one campaign in sight, and it's so funny because that campaign is just supposed to be for the first quarter of the year. But
Mm-hmm.
um, that's like the immediate thing we're working on right now. We are trying to have this nationwide campaign against economic abuse
Mm.
because it's not something popularly discussed, but it is a very, crucial thing to discuss.
What do you mean by
All the
economic abuse? Oh, sorry, I cut you off.
so yeah, so we have domestic abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a brand. But why we're emphasizing on it is because we kind of see this reluctance for Nigerian banks. And I think this is where the collaboration thing will come in because we intend to engage commercial banks in several discussions. Um, when I traveled recently to the UK, and one day I was just coming back home. I looked up and I saw this billboard by Santander Bank, and the
Okay.
bank was just speaking against economic abuse, how that if as a woman you notice your husband is having total control of your account, speak up.
Mm-hmm.
You can actually speak to them and they will do something about it. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, this is amazing. My mind
Yeah.
was blown. I never really saw it that way, and I started to think about it. In some ways, these banks can actually do something. They
Yeah.
can actually you know, create policies that women will be encouraged to open banks with them. I think recently Keystone has this campaign for women, pink account. So once you have their card, you have a lot of access to medical care, you know, beauty products, which is fantastic. But I think we should also go ahead to campaign against economic abuse. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
women can't even leave, their home, even
Yeah.
when they're being beaten, because they don't have the money. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have the money.
Mm-hmm.
It's different in other countries where we have shelters, we have places, they could go to if they run away from home. In Nigeria, you're on your own, literally. You're out in the streets. If
Mm-hmm.
family is not there to accept you, if friends are not there to accept you, you're literally on your own. So we want to just, have this campaign against economic abuse, how want to create awareness firstly because people don't know that this is the reason why women don't leave, and we usually ask that question a lot, which is really not a
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
you know
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hear people say, why didn't you leave? It's as materialistic as it may sound. I feel saying I didn't have the money is a good reason, because
Yeah.
you can say just leave if your life is in danger, but money to a large extent, like we
It's
say, runs the
important,
world. Yeah, so
especially if those women have children, because who's going to fend for the children?
yes,
That's it.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we've the news that recently got to me that was so sad, the death of this gospel singer Osinachi.
Yeah.
And the first thing she noticed and she spoke up about was the fact that her husband was literally taking all her earnings because he wasn't working and she was. So he took all the earnings, had total control of all the accounts. And that's like the first step.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, they want to isolate you. They want to make sure that you literally have nowhere to run. You are trapped in one place.
Yeah.
So yes, that's the first thing on my mind. Then we also have this leadership program for girls that we want to start, but the leadership program is aimed at, just connecting them to international education opportunities,
Oh, wow.
scholarships, fellowships, yeah, short courses. That's one thing I'm really interested in because throughout my undergraduate, I think it was in my third year or my second that I realized there were so many opportunities for young people that we didn't really have access to. Maybe it's due to, you know, not knowing how to navigate the whole internet thing and finding
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for ourselves. So we want to bring those opportunities closer to them, tell them, okay, how to write um, a good personal statement,
Yeah.
scholarship statement, yeah, all those things. So that would be next year as well. And I think that's more partnership, more collaborations, and in more funding by God's grace.
Yeah. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Like, from the first thing you said about economic abuse and financial freedom, I was even reading something recently, and I think it's a common fact. It's known that women are usually the ones that have to work hard to earn
Hmm.
money, especially
Yeah.
women in from low income backgrounds. So I think that
Mm.
the work that you're doing is fantastic, and it reminds me of work that my mom is currently doing as well. She has a show called The Vex Money Show, and it's focused
Mm.
on educating women on finance, specifically women from with low incomes. So market
Mm.
women, women with shops in stores and markets in different markets in Nigeria. And she focuses on like getting their stories, finding out how they save, and educating them on how they can save. And the thing is
Wow.
that most of these women don't even like have bank accounts because they don't really
Mm.
understand it. So things like even digital literacy are things that she's addressing as well. So I think that
Mm.
it's amazing that you are also looking at partnering with the banks.
I'm so happy to hear that work is being done, because
Yeah.
that is so inspiring. Awesome,
Mm-hmm.
awesome,
Mm-hmm.
awesome, awesome.
I'm so excited to see like the impact that you make through that because as you said, it's not something that's really spoken about as much. Like people talk about financial freedom, but then I think it needs more, there needs to be more conversations about it. And again, the leadership program for girls sounds amazing. I was in your shoes when I was in University of Lagos. I would search, like I have so many websites, like I have a database of just websites for opportunities for young people. And I know that it was a struggle for me to like learn about writing personal statements. Like even it was only like a few months ago that I figured out what like there's a difference between an academic CV and like a normal CV. So things like that are definitely important. I'm speaking only from what I know, and I know that the Nigerian education system does not really prepare you for like schooling abroad or in other countries. So it's great that
Mm.
you're doing that for young girls and you're just teaching them even and they might not even be applying now, but at least they have that knowledge for when they apply in the future. So yeah, I think that's great. And again, another collaboration opportunity. Maybe you could even partner with Sisterly HQ because at some point Sisterly HQ had an opportunities thing on LinkedIn where they
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, hey, collaborations, partnerships, we love it. Yeah, I'm very excited for like all the future plans though. Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to dig a bit deeper, more personal, you know.
Mm.
But I know that you recently finished, as you said, you recently graduated from OAU. Congratulations again. But
Thank you.
you're welcome. But what else are you doing, or what else do you get up to beyond HDI? Because as you mentioned earlier at the beginning, when you were speaking about how you sort of tried to separate yourself from HDI, but then you found that as you grew, HDI grew as well. But you're still a separate person, a separate entity to use legalese. But like, what else do you do apart from HDI? You worked with Amnesty, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so
Amnesty.
my LinkedIn stalking skills are still on point. But yeah, so what else do you get up to beyond her dream initiative?
So for me, actually, since for a long time, I've been wanting to do more of gender consulting, kind of advising on policies. And I think that was just due to my final year project, because I wrote on gender mainstreaming in the maritime sector. So that kind of made me feel,
Oh
oh, you're
wow.
good at this. Yeah.
Mm.
And you could actually build a career. So for me, I'm reading out, because the next thing for most people would be law school, NYC, the usual. But I am thinking of just going straight to where I know um would work for me in the end. So
Mm-hmm.
currently, I'm doing more of just online remote interning, just doing consulting, freelancing by the side. But I really want to develop a career in that path at the end of the day.
Mm.
So yeah, there's really nothing, at least for this year. I think I'm done with all the scheming, as regards my own personal life.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting for next year. So you apply the end of the year, you apply for so many opportunities. I'm
Mm.
just waiting to hear back. So I would say something good is coming next year, hopefully.
Hopefully, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure something good is coming. But again, another note. Um, I think I've been in your shoes where like I'm not sure if I want to do law. Like I went to law
Hmm,
school as well. I passed well,
hmm.
thank God. 2121, humble brag. It's not a first class, but I'm still proud. But
That
like
me, you should be proud. That's amazing.
well, like after I was done with law school, most of my friends, if not all, were either working in law firms during National Youth Service Corps, NYSC. During NYSC, for people who don't know what NYSC, it's like a 1 year compulsory working scheme where graduates have to work for a year in an organization and also do community development. So I think recently I've had to explain NYSC to a lot of people. So that came out easily. But like for my NYSC now, I I applied to like one or two law firms when I was in law school. Well, after the interviews, I was just like, I'm not sure. So I was like, okay, NYSC, it's very hard to get into the international development sector. Let me use this time when I have no experience, when there are no expectations from me, to work in an NGO and sort of see how an NGO is run, what happens. And I worked with IFA Reading Society, an amazing organization with amazing ladies, my friends, Ijoma and Maggie, shout out to you as well. With amazing people, and I learned so much from them. And even beyond international development was just like life stuff, even I learned a lot from them. So I was in a situation where people will always ask me, you're not working in a law firm. What are you going to do? What is this? What is that? I was like, oh gosh. Like, I don't know. It's just leave me. I just know that law is not what I want to do right now. So to hear that, like,
Yeah.
you are not falling into that, oh, okay, everybody is doing law. Let me do law too. I think it's really important. It's very important to know yourself. And my mom always calls herself an unserious parent because she's very big on she's a creative, so she's very big on you doing what you want to do, on what will make you happy. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes. So like my mom studied geography, but she writes children's books for a living. She does radio shows. So like she's she's definitely not somebody that would have pressured me into studying law and going to practice law. Sometimes she would ask like, "Oh, okay, you're sure you don't want to do law? Abi? Okay, no problem. So what do you want to do?" And she would walk me through it and she would support me. So I'm glad that I have that support. Of course, not everyone has it, but I'm glad that you are being true to yourself and saying that, okay, I know that law is not in my future. So let me try and focus on what I have, or rather on what I'm interested in and go full throttle towards that. So yeah, kudos to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
And I think, you know, with law, I think what really happened to me was before studying law, a lot of people said law is all about justice and fighting for people. And I was
Mm.
like, yes, I want to do this. And then when I got to the faculty of law,
You
I
know,
saw
so
contract, I saw commercial law,
oh
and
my
I was like,
God.
what's going on? So that kind of I won't say put me off, but especially now, in Nigerian law firms, what we see now is tax. What we see now is fintech. We
Yeah.
see um
Startups. Yeah. Yeah.
startup. We see M&A. The usual, which everyone is making money. People are doing good, but that has never really been. I didn't even know, to be honest, until I got to school. I didn't know there was law like that. I would have probably,
Oh my gosh,
gone
Steve.
for something
Do you know, like when I was in school, my uncle was an entertainment lawyer. So me, I was like, okay, entertainment law all the way. Because he passed just as I got into university, like I think the year before I got into university. So I was like, oh, I'm going to keep his legacy alive. I'm going to do entertainment law. And then I now saw that I now did contract law. And then I saw that, okay, entertainment law has to do with a lot of contracts. So I don't think I don't think this is for me. We're here now. We've taken different paths from, I guess, like what people expected, but like all these things take time and you just have to keep going and again stay true to what you want to do and what you want to achieve. Yeah. So you're a young change maker, you're making impact. Do you have any tips for young people who also want to make impact in their community? It might not even be focused on discriminatory acts towards women. It could be climate change or anything they're passionate about. So, what would you say like your winning formula for a young person who wants to make an impact in their community is?
Okay, the first thing I would advise is to find a network of like-minded change makers.
Snap
And
fingers, yes.
yeah, I don't know. I think there's this feeling that comes with starting something. Some maybe it doesn't apply to everyone, but you just feel like, oh, I'm the only one doing this, and sometimes it makes you feel good, like, okay, I'm the one with this idea, and sometimes you're just like, should it really be like this?
Mm-hmm.
And that happened to me. But when I got into the space of social impact and all that, I discovered there's so many Nigerians, home and abroad, doing amazing things. And I'm not even saying this like to butter anybody up, but literally a lot of change makers in Nigeria are doing amazing all over the world
Yeah.
generally. Um, when I came into this space, I found Temilade she's into climate change and
Mm-hmm.
representing us all over the world. I met Karimot Odebode, who is now the young SDG leader of
Mm-hmm.
2022. I met V Kat
Kativo.
I can't really pronounce her last name, but I met her as well, read her book, and I'm like, so we have this community, we have these people within our reach, literally. So I think I would advise that any young change maker should find that community. It can be in form of a social impact group, just like a group of people, talking once in a while, sharing their challenges, sharing their successes, and all that stuff. Then it could be a mentor, someone who you look up to and is already doing amazing things in that field. And I think from me, from my own point of view, I would tell you to take your time, to not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, feel down when you don't exactly hit your target. I know you want to do amazing things. I know you want to change the world and make the world a better place, but you have to understand that you are also human. You have to understand that, sometimes these things really do take time. So
Yeah.
it's fine if you don't have the audience of 1 million people and it's just like 10 people who are actually actively following what you are doing. It's fine. Be consistent. Um, show up because you never know where your name would come up. You never know
Mm-hmm.
which room they would recommend you and say, oh, I've seen this person. This person has been on this thing for years. And you sometimes you don't even know where that person is coming from, literally.
Yeah.
Sometimes I receive emails and I'm like, how did this person even know I exist? It's just one friend, then another friend, and or one community recommending you. So yes, that's what I would say.
That's
At the end
really
of the
good
day, you
advice. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So build a community. And even if you don't find a community you can join, you can start one yourself. So start a community or build a community. Make sure that you take your time and you show up. So that's very important. Thank you for those two tips, Heritage. Now, okay, so this has to do with like HDI's mission generally. But how do you think people can make a change in their community as it relates to discriminatory and derogatory practices against females? Like because we've said that funding is important. So we know that funding is one of the things that people can do more. But beyond that, what else do you think? Sorry, some context. So under every article that we do, beyond our interview articles, we try to put prompts. So we do read more prompts and do more prompts. And read more prompts, we link articles that people can read to educate themselves more on the topic that we've written about. And the do more prompts are like small, seemingly small actionable steps that people can take, because we need to show people that you don't have to be a part of a large organization to make a difference. So what steps do you think that people can take to address derogatory or discriminatory practices against women?
Mm. Yes, this question is so important, by the way. Thank you so much for asking, because sometimes you want to do something, but you kind of feel helpless. And I think I wrote a blog article on, for example, an active bystander, what they do when you see that a lady is being harassed, let's say in
Mm,
your boss. And it comes down to the little things you do, like you said, like the seemingly little things that are not so little. For example, I have found myself in conversations, just with people regularly, and I hear someone say something about a woman that is quite discriminatory, but a lot of people just like to sweep things like that under the carpet. I don't do that. I say, okay, why would you think like that? I want to hear your opinion. And you sometimes you see them struggle to give a valid reason for why they think that way.
yeah.
And then I explain to them that why you are thinking this way is because you have a certain image of women that is really not correct. And the most recent one had to do with Funke Akindele. For people
Mm,
who don't know her, she's an actress and entertainer who recently decided to vie for the post of a deputy governor in Lagos State, Nigeria. And she got a lot of side comments talking about her marriage, the fact that she can't handle governance well because her home is really not stable. And I decided to ask the person, okay, so how many wives does Buhari have, the
mm,
president of Nigeria? And he was silent because he really couldn't tell how many wives he had. And I was like, you see why you don't know, because you feel it's not irrelevant. So why is
mhm.
it relevant when it comes to a woman's case? Like, why do
Yeah.
you have to know how many children she has? All that stuff. It's really just discrimination. It's really just being biased and being sexist. But we don't like to
Mhm,
put titles to these things in Nigeria. So I would encourage anyone, like when you're in a room and some things are being said that are really, really not accurate, they are discriminatory, you have to make sure that you check that person. Tell the
mhm,
person this is not what it is.
mhm.
Speak up when you see something, like they say
Say
something.
something.
When you see someone being harassed, don't just walk away or laugh. Sometimes I see people do that in public places, and it kind of gets me irritated because I won't want to watch something going on and I decide to laugh and walk away
Mhm,
because I don't want to seem like the person overreacting. Please, by all means, overreact if you need to. You know,
mhm,
People are
mhm.
going to say, "Oh, you're too strict. You're being too sensitive, reading too much into things." But sometimes you really have to be that person. That's what change is all about. Sometimes when you are changing something, it's always different from the norm.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's not you're not always going to get the applause. And I think we really
True.
need to understand that as change makers, it's not every time they'll be giving you award or
Mhm.
they'll be spotlighting you on Instagram. Sometimes you have to do things that you'll be insulted for. You have to speak up. And I think one person that really gets the backlash with change makers generally is Greta Thunberg
Mm,
with
yeah,
her work with climate change. I see a lot of people say, go to school, you should be focusing on other things right now. And she's
yeah.
speaking for the cause of everyone. But
Everyone,
people
yeah.
just, people just seem to find her, too much. She's doing too much. So I think that's what makers do. Sometimes we have to bear that
Mhm,
discriminatory comment. We have to bear some of these things too.
mhm,
So I
mhm.
hope I'm not discouraging anyone, but
No, please
yeah,
don't be discouraged.
you still get the award, definitely. You will still get
Why
the
did I just think of
recognition.
that quote that your reward is in heaven? Please no. Your reward is here too. Please keep going. Like it'll all be worth it. And even like that thing you said about Greta Thunberg, people are intimidated by her, especially because she's young, she's female,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
she's speaking up against people who are much older than her, who are male, who are in positions of power, and she's not taking any prisoners. So all those ones that people are saying, "Oh, keep quiet, go to school, go to school." Like, please stop it. She's trying to help you. She's trying to make sure that your future is better, and what you can do is support. So yeah,
Hmm.
we always ask this question, but again, like quick explanation. Kurerie means change in my mom's language. Isoko. So we like to know, or I'd like to know, what change means to you.
Hmm. Change. Um, I think change to me is just a result of you thinking of something bigger than yourself. Change
Mm,
is doing your best to impact people, making sure that you don't leave people the same way, that you met them. I think that there's this quote I really love so much, although sometimes I forget the full quote, but it's literally saying that when people see you, they should see light. They should see a reflection of something good, you know,
wow.
just transferring your energy, transferring, positive vibes, positivity, change, like you said, like the word itself. Um, so it's not really the fancy things. It's not sponsoring 500 girls to school. Sometimes it's as little as speaking up,
Mm,
when you see someone being, I will always speak in the context of, women rights. When you see someone being abused, it's even about someone telling you she has been raped and you saying it's not your fault, and you didn't do anything wrong, because sometimes we see people blame themselves, and the first person they go to tell the matter to is the person who actually shuts them up
mhm.
and says, "Oh, it's not possible, it's not true." So it's the little things. It's sometimes it's the words you say, the actions you take daily, the
Yeah.
posts, your LinkedIn post, your Instagram post. Like, you guys are really killing it. The LinkedIn top voices. I have to say that, by the way.
Oh,
I see your
thank
posts
you.
sometimes, and I'm just like, this is a good start to my day. So
I don't feel like I'm not
um
being consistent, so thanks. But thank you.
yeah, so I feel this is a good start. Just you dropping that post, you've created change in some way, you've inspired someone, you've helped someone. So yes, I think that there's really nothing grand or fancy that I have to say about what it means. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I really love that quote you said about how when people see you, they should see light. And that's look so powerful because when people see you, they should see goodness. They should see, even if it's not perfection, they should see that you are striving to be a better person. You're striving to make people around you better. You're striving to make your community and your society better. And another important thing that you said is about just starting. Like most of the posts on my LinkedIn, I overthink things. So what I've been doing recently, and I think it could also be used in the social impact project context about how immediately I write it, once I read it, once I send it, because I know that if I keep it in my head, I'll keep thinking about it, thinking about it, thinking about it. So again, for those who are starting social impact projects or who actually have started and maybe want to do something new that they think might not work, maybe just start. If it doesn't work out, fine, then you can always work on it again. But like just start, just publish that post, just send that message, just
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's a very I love your definition of change also about how it's not about the big things necessarily. It's about the little things. It's about publishing a post. It's about sharing something on social media. And you're sharing something, even if you can't send money to like an organization, it's possible that if you even share maybe something from her Dream Initiative, like the person that sees it, someone on your feed might see it and might send money. So
Yeah.
technically, like you've helped them raise funds. So even just sharing is important. And I guess that sort of brings me to my next question about how people can support her Dream Initiative beyond funding. Of course, speak about funding because it's important. But yeah.
So yes, okay. I want to promise everyone listening that a single donation, any donation you make won't be wasted. You literally would see the benefit of what you've done. So
Mm-hmm.
that's about funding. Then you could also engage us on social media. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram as Her Dream Initiative, you know. So that's so easy to find. Just engage. Sometimes we have articles, you could read them. Sometimes we love to hear feedback from people on those research topics. And I think I'm particular about people in the north. Sometimes I really like to, explore other cultures because I haven't been anywhere in the north apart from maybe Abuja, and I don't even think that counts. But so yeah, so I would really love to engage with people in other parts of Nigeria, other parts of the world. So please engage us on social media. Then we also have outreaches in different states. We are next year we are planning southwest, south. So
Mm.
if you have outreaches in your area, please do join us. You know, you don't have to you just take a short training and then you could join us for that day. You could be a volunteer as well. We are always interested in the growth of all our volunteers. So
Mhm.
you'll be sure that we're not going to, just leave you like that. We are going to actually give you tips on how to level up as well as a
Yeah,
person. So
yeah.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and just pointing out that volunteer thing, like please, if you have volunteers in your organizations, please ensure that they are also gaining from you. So not that you're just taking. And the last episode we did was with Dhruv Shah, who's the co-founder of Smira Foundation or the Smira Project. And
Mm.
they focus on donating secondhand clothes to communities in India. And now they're in Nigeria, actually. He had an outreach
Wow.
I think a few months ago, was it last month? Yeah. And they're going to be in, I believe, Brazil or the Philippines soon. I'm not sure which country. But one thing that he really hammered on was the fact that they try to match their volunteers to tasks which they know they'd be interested in, whether for their careers, whether personally. So if let's say a volunteer is interested in getting an MBA in the future, they will put him in charge of a team so that he could build his team leading, his leadership qualities and his leadership tools and things like that. So, as Heritage said, a note for anyone else who is looking to get volunteers, just make sure that you are constantly checking in with your volunteers, making sure that they are enjoying the experience, they are gaining from the experience, and incentives don't have to be money. Not like even writing a recommendation letter, even connecting them with
Yeah.
someone in your community, even helping them with their
Mm.
own projects, I think is very important. And I'm glad that HDI, her Dream Initiative, is also very focused on developing their volunteers as well. And apart from your beneficiaries gaining from you, the people within the system, your system are also gaining. So, okay, so I think you've also sort of answered this question about like your future plans, and you've mentioned that you've applied for a lot of things. You want to go into gender
Yeah.
consulting in the future, and you're just looking for
Yeah.
more opportunities. Well, you're waiting on opportunities, which I'm sure you'll definitely get. Um,
Amen.
yes, you will. Amen, amen, amen. But how can people connect with you? Where can people find you?
Oh, okay. I'm also on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn. I really don't do well with Twitter. So I think I'm just on those two. Oh, on Instagram, Sanmi-Lawal.
Okay.
Yes, so and on LinkedIn, Heritage Sanmi-Lawal. So I think that's all. I would love to have conversations with change makers. If you have questions or if you need some sort of advice on anything, or if you want to advise me too as well, please
Actually, please.
feel free. Please feel free to connect. I'll be really glad to have new connections. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can definitely send Heritage a message on Instagram or LinkedIn. These messages, if you want to connect, if you want to learn more about her work, or collaborate even, because as Heritage mentioned earlier, she's very big on collaboration and partnerships. So that's definitely something that I assume that you're open to. Yeah. Okay. So our final question, we've come to the end of the road, and I really, really enjoyed this conversation. It's one of my favorite podcast episodes that we've recorded. I say that like we recorded like 6 seasons or like three, but I really enjoyed it. Our final question that we ask all our change makers, all our young impact creators, is for your top 3 recommendations. Now, we only say top 3 recommendations as a formality. You could give us more recommendations if you want. Where recommendations could be anything from a book to a website to a mantra that you're following to a podcast you're listening to someone you follow, anything at all.
Um, okay, for podcast, I would definitely recommend yours because
Oh,
yeah, I told you I've been following the podcast, so listening to different episodes, and it's so interesting that you have this ability to engage people in discussions and allow them to actually, you know, express themselves and talk. So podcast generally is a big deal these days, and
yeah.
I'm saying this because I have a podcast as well,
Yes, you
and I think
do.
yeah, I'm to have you as a guest as well, by the
Yeah,
way.
actually, we'll talk about that later. Don't worry.
So um yeah, so your podcast, number one, I would
Thank you.
say TED Talks Daily as well. TED Talks
Yeah,
Daily
that's a good one.
is a way to be current without being bored,
Mm,
literally. It's a way to get a lot of inspiration and motivation. Then I would say Voice of Change. I listen to Voice of Change. Is a podcast by Jumoke Adunowo. She talks about leadership. She talks about crucial social issues. And I
mm,
just really love her because she's such a blunt person. If you need a wake up call to do the right thing, you really need to listen to her podcast. Um, then I listen to BBC Women because I like to hear about what's going on, as regards women rights in different parts of the world.
mm-hmm.
Then for books, with regards to women too, I would recommend Hood Feminism. It is a book written by, I can't quite recall her name now. I think is Nikki. I can't remember. But the name of the book is Hood Feminism. So it kind of gives the perspective of feminism from minority groups, talk about um women, black women, women of color, you know, single mothers, the reality, literally. I think a book was quite an attack on this other book by Cheryl. I can't even remember the name of that book, but it was about women in leadership. And
Okay.
Good Feminism was kind of like a critique of that book because she tries to say, oh, yes, you're talking about women in leadership, but there's also women that can't even earn a job, not to talk about becoming an executive. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, that's the book. Then one of my favorites, The Alchemist. I love The Alchemist so much. Maybe because I read it. I don't even know if that is right, but it was an audiobook basically.
Okay.
So I enjoyed The Alchemist. That book is a recommendation. Um people to follow on. I'm mainly on Instagram, like I said. So on Instagram, I follow V, I follow Temilade, Salami, Karimot, Odebode. Um, I follow a lot of change makers generally. On LinkedIn, Opportunity Desk, Titilope Adedokun, Chizulu, um, gender job boards, for jobs. If you want to get regular jobs updates, you can
Mm,
follow gender jobs. If you want to get scholarships, if you want to get opportunities, internships, you can also follow Opportunity Desk. They share so many. On Instagram too, I think there's opportunities for Africans. This one is basically for Africans, Nigerians.
mm.
Um, yeah. For movies, I would definitely tell you to watch a good Korean drama. Watch one and change your mind.
Which one are
Change
you watching now?
your-
Heritage is trying to
I
tell me
don't.
okay dramas.
Yeah, I because people will start talking about boys over flowers and stuff. Like that's
I
like
haven't
1990.
watched that actually. I tried watching. I'm not gonna lie. I tried watching it. I was like, this isn't for me. It was just taking too long for something to happen. I was just like,
Yeah, it was actually a very not a very good one, to be honest.
okay, but which
But
one do you love right now? Mhm.
oh yes, I would for 2022, I would say watch Vincenzo. Vincenzo is such an amazing movie. I would say Alchemy of Souls too. The season 2 is coming out this December and I cannot
Genge.
wait. But yeah,
Okay,
that's
okay.
that's all from me.
Okay, okay. All right. Well, thank you for your recommendations. I'll check them out. I mean, I've watched K-dramas. I hope my friend doesn't hear this. My friend is obsessed with K-dramas. And I think the last one I finished was The Extraordinary Attorney Woo, I think. Yeah. And now I'm watching Shooting Stars, which isn't bad. So you heard it here first, guys. Go and watch K-dramas. Thank you so much, Heritage. I enjoyed speaking with you. I learned a lot from you as well, and I'm sure other people that are listening or are going to listen will learn a lot as well. And yeah, I'm so excited to see what her dream initiative achieves in the future and what you achieve in the future as well, because I think that you're definitely going to take prisoners? What's the term? I don't remember now. But you're going you're definitely going to create some amazing impact. And I'm excited to see all the lives that you change and all the communities that you impact. And yeah, thank you for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I enjoyed speaking with you. So
Yeah, it's such an amazing time. Thank you so much for having me.
thank you.